Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Subscribing to My Podcast. Because I have a new guest on the show every week, it's very difficult to get consistent viewership. So if there's one thing that you can do to support me and the guest featured on my show, is by interacting with the video. You can always unsubscribe later if you hate me or the content. Without further ado, here's your episode with Grant Veenstra and Zane Lenz are both the founders and creators of Frozen Gains, a protein ice cream supplement / food product that they sell. They're also both just heavily involved in the entrepreneurship clubs here on campus. And I got in contact with them because of my brother, who actually gave me a recommendation. And I've met these two fine gentlemen, and they both seem really excited and really passionate about their products. But we'll start with Grant. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah, I'm Grant Veenstra. I'm a finance student at Iowa State, and we got involved at Frozen Gains through the SciStar program, through the entrepreneurship program at Iowa State. So that's where me and Zane are from, and we pitched our product to actually Elijah's brother, and that's how he found us. But that's a little bit about me.
My name is Zane Lenz. I'm a senior in computer engineering, co-founder of Frozen Gains, head computer wizard at Frozen Gains, and yeah, I just got involved with SciStarters, and I don't know. I've kind of always been in entrepreneurship, but ever since I went to this program, it's really come out of me and been something I really am passionate about. So.
Yeah, and it's just so cool, like, talking to people who have actually started something and who have this idea for entrepreneurship. And I feel like a lot of people hear about entrepreneurship, but they have no idea what the start looks like what the beginning looks like. So for you guys, how did this start? Where does this idea come from? And then what were your first steps?
Yeah, I'd say for an idea, growing up, I always wanted to play college basketball, but I was a really little kid. I couldn't really compete, and so that kind of seemed infeasible. And in my senior year or junior year of high school, and my buddy was like, hey, you should try these weight gainer shakes. And so I was like, sure, I'll try anything. I mean, I really want to get bigger. I want to compete in sports. So I started doing these shakes, and they're really, really gross. They're thick, disgusting. It's like drinking pancake batter. You fill it up with a whole bunch of powder. But I was doing these. I finally put on a bunch of weight, and I got a scholarship to play basketball at Northwestern. Not the smart one, the one in Northwest Iowa.
I see.
It's a smaller school, so I'm not that talented, but not enough. So I went there for my freshman year, and I felt pretty accomplished. You know, I figure I met my goals. I'm on college basketball. I was actually like the biggest freshman in the class. But the first day, the coach tells me, he goes, Grant, if you're going to compete, we want you to put on like 20, 30 more pounds. And I didn't want to do the shakes again, but they put me on the weight gaining protocols. So they'd send me to the dining hall, and they'd give me the meals, like meat, potato, vegetables, and like 6 chicken breasts, then a plate of, I don't know, whatever else they gave me, and then a salad, and then ironically an ice cream cone. And they'd have me do that lunch and dinner. And I was thinking, man, there's got to be a different way. I'm uncomfortable all the time eating all this food, drinking these gross shakes. So I was kind of thinking I wanted to do something. I kind of thought about ice cream. And then one day, the next year, I didn't know what to do with this idea, but I was talking to Zane, I think, around the campfire with a couple of beers. We kind of had this Frozen Gains idea, and I heard about the SciStar program from Gene Walsh, who came to class to kind of advertise it. The Papa John Center comes around and advertises certain programs. And then I was like, Zane, we got to do this. They'll give you money to start up even dumb kids like us. So that's kind of how we got a little jump start into the entrepreneurship program.
Yeah, and then Zane, how did it come about with you?
I guess he covered most of it. My journey wasn't quite as crazy as his. I started working out in like middle school, I think. Eventually graduated to the protein shakes, and then eventually graduated to the mass gainer shakes. But I didn't have as much willpower to stomach them, so I quit pretty early. I tried replacing it with just more food, more protein shakes, but once I got to college, I'm sure most people know that all your money disappears, and you can't really afford that sort of diet, so figured there had to be something better, and then he had this idea, and we pitched it to SciStarters and got in, so yeah.
So talk to me about like frozen ice cream. Like, how do you guys make this? How did it start because you guys just started concocting your own ice cream and eating it, and then you're like, hey, this is pretty good? Or were you guys like in the crafting process trying to figure out what to sell and make? Like, how did you guys start eating this?
Yeah, we kind of had the idea in theory, but we didn't really know how to do it in practice. And so we hadn't really made it until we got involved in the entrepreneurship program. We kind of pitched this idea without a product. And so they gave us this grant. So they give you a certain stipend of money to live on for the summer and like do your business with. And so we got that, and then we bought like a kind of a small time a commercial ice cream machine. We just started making pints and exploring. And really, at first, they were terrible. I'm not gonna. They're unedible. We had some issues because we were just a couple of dumb guys who lift, and so we didn't know how to do food at the time. So, but they connected us with a lot of like food scientists and people who do this for like they actually learned about it. And so they gave us tips and tricks. We kind of been workshopping ever since, just doing a bunch of different batches. So we finally got it in a good spot.
And then where are you guys at now? So how much have you guys made, sold? Like, tell me about the history of your guys' business.
So right now we're in pre-sales. We found out there's a lot of things you have to do to be like food certified in order to like sell your product in mass. You could probably do under the table, but it's not legal. You could probably sell a couple pints here and there, but
right.
we didn't think that was super feasible to do. So right now we're actually in the process of starting a partnership with another creamery to produce our product. So we're kind of in talks with them, negotiating to see if they'd be able to mass produce our product. So a creamery up in Northwest Iowa, ironically the town I spent my freshman year of college in. So we just went up last week and we made like a first batch with their stuff combined with our stuff, like a preliminary thing. But yeah, just so we made like a first batch. They sent us home with some samples, so we're kind of workshopping it with their recipes too.
Okay, and that's where you guys are at now.
Mm-hmm.
And then what's that process look like? Is that like within the next couple months, couple years, you guys are going to be like selling this, or is it just right now you guys are testing it, see if it tastes good, if it works, if it makes sense for you guys?
So we got to try it. So they're a little bit farther on with their product, and so we think that just partnering with them, we'll be able to jumpstart it as soon as we get the consistency right with our ice cream, with our like protein additives and things like that. So once we get our nutrition levels, I think it'll hit the ground running pretty fast. So we're hoping, I'd like to have it. They have like a innovative product market at Iowa State for student products in December, so we're hoping to have products there.
Oh, I see. Okay, and then if you guys don't, is this partnership seem pretty solid for you guys, or is this still like, there's still a chance that this doesn't come through with like this partnership specifically?
I guess it's always possible it falls through, but I felt pretty good about it. I don't know what would you think about our conversations with them?
Oh, I feel like they're great. Yeah, I think it's just more about getting them something to actually work with, and then if we can figure out how to get the money together to actually produce this, that's really all that matters. But as far as I can tell, they're down to work with us.
What stuff are you guys adding to the ice cream? Like, what does it nutritionally look like to be healthy protein ice cream?
Nutritionally, so we're adding like the base of it is like the protein isolate. So it comes down to like this powder. They can isolate just like basically the protein in it, which is like 76 grams of protein per 100 grams or whatever, I think, as the powder breaks down. So it's pretty concentrated. So we add that to like the ice cream mix, and a couple of the fats we're adding from like avocado oil. So some more healthier fats too to kind of replace. So our product ended like our prototype was with between 40 and 50 grams of protein with like 1,000 calories to help replace them. Because when you're working out, if you're an athlete, you're burning off. You're working out 3 times a day, so you need something to put back, or else you're going to not be able to keep weight if you're playing sports. But that's kind of where we're at for nutrition.
Yeah,
levels.
and then is that getting added to like a pretty normal base ice cream, or are you guys making a like, I guess not low fat, but like a lower cal ice cream, or are you guys keeping it base and then just adding the protein to it?
Mm-hmm. So a lot of people have asked us about like a lower calorie ice cream. We want to start with more of a mass gainer model where you have some higher fats and fat content to be able to put the calories back. But I think in the future I could see us making a lower calorie one as well. But as far as base goes, with our new partnership, they actually do it a little bit different. They take they pasteurize from goat's milk, so they get like a low lactose content. So people who are lactose free, it's a more healthier option where they can stomach it a little nicer. So it's not completely lactose free because some of the whey isolate in there from the protein. But he says that with their product, a lot of lactose free people can have it. So I think that makes it a little more accessible to others too.
That's the true bulk thing, because we know how protein affects the digestive system. You don't even need to be intolerant. It just kind of sucks. So that's super interesting. When you guys are, I guess before you guys were you guys making your own ice cream? Like, I know that you used the ice cream maker, but were you guys, like, how does the ice cream actually work? Were you guys just putting in, like, the milks and stuff and then having it freeze it and whatever the spinny thing that it does, and then adding your guys' ingredients to that, or were you guys, like, using ice cream and putting protein in it?
So we were kind of making ours from scratch. We were talking to the food science people, and they were telling us what kind of things to put into it. So we kind of workshop different ratios of different ingredients, and then we blend it all up in my blender, and then we pasteurize it on the stove. We got to get it to a certain temperature. Then we put it in the bigger ice cream maker, and there's a hopper too that kind of spins it as well. So that was kind of like the base process. But we make our own mix because we figured out to make like a weight gainer ice cream with the protein. There's a lot of things that like work weird when you add the protein isolates that make the texture throw off. So you kind of have to build it from scratch a little bit just to make sure that it doesn't get rock solid or taste super crappy.
Yeah, so I guess you guys really did stomach all the hard work at the beginning of like really terrible ice cream.
Yeah, because we didn't know how to make it at all. So they were rock solid for the first 2 months, and we were getting really discouraged.
Have you guys, is there a lot of stuff like this? Because I know that they have like the protein shakes and stuff, but is there a lot of protein ice creams that exist right now, or is it still like kind of a new market?
We couldn't find a single one in any store we found in Iowa. We know there's a couple other ones scattered around small time people like us making some smaller batches, but there's nothing like mainstream on the market, which is unfortunate. There's things like Halo Top. I think they have like 10 grams of protein or something like that, which is really, really small per pint compared to something like this. So we think that we kind of fill a new gap, a new product line. So we're excited about that.
This should be really interesting. Bulking was impossible, and it's like really hard. It was the whole milk protein powder combination, like chugging those down for the for the bulk. So and what the problem is that this isn't something that people, I guess, normally attribute as a problem or like a thing that people do. I think it's so counterintuitive to talk about weight and gain when it comes to dieting. And so have you guys talked to a lot of people who are like this, who just don't really see the market or the importance of this?
Yeah, we pitched to a couple people in the Papa John's Center, and they couldn't see it. They're like, we never even thought this was a market. What in the world? Like weight gain? Never. All the adults are like, weight gain? Can you make one that makes me lose weight? Make ice cream makes me lose weight. But we think we did a lot of market research, and I was talking to my college basketball coaches, and we talked to different coaches from all different levels, and they're like, yeah, pretty much everyone who comes in athlete-wise needs to put on some amount of weight to compete, because especially with like the COVID rules and the red shirts, you got like 25-year-olds playing college sports, and those are full-grown men. So coming there as an 18-year-old to try to compete against these dudes who are just gigrumbus, it's very tough.
Yeah. Well, and there's also like personal reasons too. Like I think a lot of people want to gain weight, especially for very weight-heavy sports like wrestling.
Yep.
Like you'll hear the horror stories of like the wrestling gym up at Lead where they have to eat like 30,000 calories a day or something ridiculous, just to keep up with whatever weight class they need to do.
Yep.
So
I know a friend who is eating an entire cake every single day for playing football.
This is the stuff like I know people who do an entire package of bagels and then like a gallon of milk every day or something
disgusting.
like this.
Even people are like, hey, I take shots of olive oil because it's high in calories. I think that's ridiculous. That's crazy.
Yeah, and I think it's just a market that people don't necessarily understand, or they don't see. But when you guys were doing that research, what kind of numbers were you getting for like an interest in this, or is it just that like this market exists, just not necessarily how big it is?
Do you remember the numbers that we found from that?
I don't know if they're specifically related to weight gaining, but let's see what they. I think it was over 60% of Americans are participating in physical activity on a regular basis, and then over 40% of athletes consume protein products on a regular basis. I think was relevant. And then estimated the mass gainer market, I think it was expected to exceed like $10 billion by 2030.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then another thing we kind of found with our market research was different markets we just had no idea we would be serving. So like my aunt is a physician, and she works with a lot of underdeveloped kids. And so they're trying to get them to drink these shakes because the kids are 20 pounds underweight as a 7-year-old or whatever. But it's so hard to get a kid to finish one of these shakes. They need these calories. And so the kids don't get any bigger and they're not making progress. So we think like what kid doesn't like ice cream too?
Yeah.
So we could serve that market. Or like there's a lot of older elderly people who they feed them like these Ensure shakes in retirement homes, and they're just not very good. They're terrible. Those shakes are awful. So we think we could serve them too. Or people who have medications that like upset their stomach. Some medications are just bad like that, but there's no way around it at this point. So we think there's a couple other facets of areas where we could really serve. So we're excited about.
Yeah, and I mean that's super cool. It's interesting. What kind of problems were you guys running into when you were starting this or making it? Like what were some of the obstacles at the beginning that maybe you weren't prepared for?
Yeah, we thought we'd be able to get a product like that was felt like ice cream right away. I don't know about you, but it took us, like I said, like months to get it to be where you could actually like dig it out without like a knife and a pickaxe into the thing because it froze so solid. So we just kept going back to the drawing board with that. And then another thing was getting our calorie count as high as we wanted it to, because some of them are like low calorie things. And it's easier to find like for instance, it's easier to find like 2% milk powder rather than whole milk powder as a general rule for just finding vendors and stuff. And so we kind of had that obstacle as well, just trying to find someone who has the fat content we want that's semi-healthy.
Yeah, was there anything that you noticed at the beginning that you were expecting to be kind of like a breeze and then you were struggling with?
I guess I expect us to have something to sell a lot quicker. The Science Starters program was like 11 weeks over the summer. I expected to have something by the end of that, and then that didn't really turn out, so we were expecting to have something in like August, the start of the school year. that hasn't happened. So hopefully we can make it to the end of the semester. That still seems achievable.
Do you think that that's something that's kind of related to just entrepreneurship in general, or do you think it's something specific with your guys' product that maybe it's a little bit harder to get into your market than it would be for other people?
I think food in general, I think is tougher. I think there's going to be setbacks in any entrepreneurship journey. Like if you're starting up your own business, there's always things you don't foresee, you don't know, you don't, take into account. But food, I think, just has a lot of certifications you have to jump through and things you have to do in order to be able to sell it. So I think that's a bigger, I don't know. What do you think?
I agree. I think food's probably harder than. I guess everything's got its own challenges, but food, yeah, like you were saying, you got certifications you got to jump through before you can sell anything. And then, I don't know, like we said before, we know next to nothing about making food, so
Yeah.
just finding the people who can tell us how to do it.
Yeah.
That's been kind of difficult too.
And another thing is, like, especially with frozen foods, distribution becomes an issue too.
Oh, yeah.
So when you have something that needs to stay cold all the time and can't be melting throughout the process, that makes it another harder thing. And everything just takes a little bit more money than you'd think.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you guys still getting funded by a grant right now, or?
We got a kind of a bulk sum of money throughout the summer. We got through our program money, but right now they still have like pitch competitions you can do for people like us. So we just received another reward for pitching from the Dean's Advisory Council a couple weeks ago. So that was good too. So we got another little more boost of cash too there to keep the lights on.
Yeah, this is really cool. But you guys are both students right now. You guys are in your senior years. How much time do you guys spend working on this? Including like the time you guys spend planning, just thinking, like how much of a workload has this been for you guys?
It kind of goes in phases a little bit. Sometimes it gets really, really busy, and then sometimes you feel like you're sitting on your hands not doing anything. So I guess week to week as an entrepreneur, you just don't know what's going to come up or what's going to be your delays, because some weeks you're just kind of waiting on people. Like right now we're just kind of waiting on the people at the creamery to send us some more nutritional information about their products so we can kind of combine it with ours and get the nutritional values right. So right now it feels like we're doing nothing. I guess we're going on the podcast, so that's something. But right now it feels like we're doing nothing. But like last week we were driving 3.5 hours each way to go see this creamery and talk to them and doing calculations and stuff on different feasibility analysis for how much we're supposed to sell this ice cream versus how much it's going to take to make it. So it kind of comes in weeks. It's a hard question to really nail on the head.
And then for me, it's been pretty difficult to make time for it. I guess right now we don't have a whole lot to do, so that's been nice. But because I'm a senior in engineering, all I do is project work now. So I've got at least 3 meetings for my senior design class a week, and then I got to go meet another team later to go put an app together. And it's just trying to find time to work on the business has been kind of difficult for me.
Yeah. Do you guys find that it takes a lot of mental energy, as in like you guys are stressing out about deadlines or the future or what this is going to look like for you?
Yeah, I'd say so. He's seen me stress over it when we were getting rock solid stuff. I'm like, oh, dude, I don't know why do we do this? Like,
Yeah.
I was getting so discouraged for a while, but you make those breakthroughs and it feels so good. So it is just a roller coaster of emotions because you feel like you got something figured out, and then it's the next thing you got to do, and then it's the next thing. So it's kind of an up and down thing where you're like, I got it. Oh shoot, there's something else.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I guess, that's kind of the exciting part, though. And I think a lot of people look at what it takes to run a business or what it takes to do these things, and they see the end product, and they're there, and they don't really conceptualize the amount of failure that it took.
Yeah.
And I think even more so when people are thinking about, like, hey, I'm going to start this business, they think it's going to be this, like, really easy thing, and then their first failure hits and it's like, oh well, GG, we're done now. You know what I mean? And so it's really interesting to hear about like what you guys' expectations were, what you guys thought, and then what's slowing you down. When you look into the future after you guys graduate, how does that work with this business? Like, how are you guys going to make that continue?
We're actually pretty excited about it because, like we said, one of the setbacks is that you need a certain amount of funding for areas, and so we're each expecting to get jobs in the next year. So having a little extra cash to be able to put something, buy the product we need, and when you're on the raw material budget, it's a little bit difficult.
Yeah.
So when you actually have a couple extra dollars to throw at a product development, it makes it a lot easier. So obviously we're gonna have less time, but I think we're both pretty passionate about making a pretty good product, and with a new partnership we're hoping to make, I think that it'll be alleviated a little bit once we get the R&D of the product all figured out. So hopefully we get that done this year, and so it more just happens on more distribution stuff in the future rather than R&D creating something new with a new person. But we're excited about it, I think. So a little funding.
Yeah, I guess like creatively, how do you guys handle advertising or like publishing your stuff or like making your product appealing to other people? Like, what does that creative aspect of this look like?
Right now, I'm not gonna lie. Our social media, we're really bad at it. That's a drawback. That's a flaw in our knowledge and know-how. So we're working on that. We've been brainstorming a little bit of marketing campaign on that facet. But Zane built our website from ground up, and then I went to high school with a really good graphic designer, and so she kind of put all of our graphics together and made some of our branding, and I think she really did a really good job on it. So I'm excited. I think that kind of jumps out and kind of sells for itself a little bit when you see it. We wanted to be different than the packaging you see on the shelves for different pints that already exist. But so we think we have accomplished that. She did a really great job, but still working on the social media aspect about it.
Yeah, one thing about the social media, they do like trainings in the studio we're in right now. They do like photography trainings and all that. So I'm doing some of those and hopefully going to make or gain the skills to not take cruddy photos. So
yeah.
we can actually do some like product branding and all that.
Well, and that's I feel like that's a slept on part with when you're doing something like this is you have to realize that like I actually have to sell this. And in the world of the internet, it's kind of unlimited potential for what you can do, but it's also unlimited competition. And so like it's this weird thing where it's like you guys could like I don't even know what you could do, but you'd make like corny TikTok videos about like, you know, bulking and how disgusting it is or like whatever these things have to be, and you guys can post it on there. But then you also have to become like content creators as opposed to businessmen. And it's a weird balance where like you kind of have to have this knowledge, and I'm very excited to see where you guys get it from because I don't know where it comes from because I need to figure that stuff out too. But it just takes time. But, you know, with the future, like imagine in 10 years, is this something that you guys would want to do full time, or would you guys start another project, or would you be more interested in working for like a company or like starting something else? Like, what does your guys' professional goals look like for the next like 10 years?
Yeah, I'd like to keep working with this, but I'm also very entrepreneurial. I'd like to start other businesses as well. I've always been interested in going into real estate and buying real estate rental properties. So that's something I'd want to do in the future as well. But I could see us doing this for a while, especially if it takes off.
Yeah, if this does take off, this is what I'd want to do. Like when I started computer engineering, like coding for some big corporation sounded cool, but now that I'm so close, it really doesn't sound all that appealing anymore. So I'd like to do this, or maybe just start my own like software company or something like that. I could also see myself starting something else at some point.
Yeah, I mean, and this will be a good foundation, and this is a good start too for you guys. Even if it's not like hyper successful, as in you guys are like the next millionaires off of ice cream, it's still going to be like a very interesting process, and I imagine it's going to teach you a lot about what making a product looks like and what the future looks like. I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about like your guys' journeys and I guess like your guys' perspective on bulking or like fitness, because you guys are doing a fitness project and you guys are both huge dudes. So it like kind of shows that you have at least passion when it comes to this area. So you guys are talking about bulking. You guys are implementing this, you know, new idea, this new product that you want to do. Why should people be eating protein ice cream in the bulk? Like, what market is this, or what hole is this filling? Like, why is this important?
I'd say it mixes up the monotony of just having like gross, disgusting foods every single day. I remember sitting on my couch and I was eating just a pound of hamburger, and I was like, this is gross. I'd rather just eat some ice cream or something. So I was kind of thinking, like, if you're in the mood where you just need that protein in, but you kind of want a dessert thing and mix it up with your regular food, because when you're on a bulk, you're eating copious amounts of food and it's uncomfortable. And you're just wishing, like, hey, I have to get these calories and have to get these this protein count in, but the foods that have it aren't the ones I want to eat. So rather than have another shake, just to have an alternative to do that and just make the process more enjoyable so you don't feel completely disgusting all the time, I think that's kind of the niche that we fill.
Yeah, and I think one of the interesting things is that laymen's who haven't done a lot of research in gaining or losing weight, it just doesn't necessarily compute. Like, there's a little bit that you might have to explain when it comes to why you should even be eating ice cream. Because the intuition is ice cream is super unhealthy. Don't eat a ton of ice cream. If you're going to bulk, you need to eat 3,000 calories of chicken breast and rice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I imagine you guys have a different perspective on that's not necessarily how bulking works. I'm assuming you guys are working on a model that's more similar to calories in, calories out, is what I'm assuming. Can you guys explain that a little bit to maybe guests or viewers who aren't super familiar with this?
Yeah, you got to be eating either So you have a baseline calories of where you kind of sit to maintain what your body is normally. So let's say that's 2,000 calories from regular diet. You need to be eating either less than that if you're trying to lose weight, or more than that if you're trying to gain weight. And a lot of people do what they call as like a dirty bulk or a semi-dirty bulk, which means you're just trying to put it as much weight as possible, because in the gym, if you're just a heavier guy, you're going to push more weight. That's just how it works. Like they say, mass pushes mass. And so a lot of people, they just put on all that weight and they get stronger and stronger, and then they do they cut the calories down low and they cut off that fat and they built more muscle. Because they're bigger, they're able to put more muscle on. So that's kind of where we help people like put on that muscle by putting those extra calories in, but also the protein. So you're not just eating ice cream, you're eating a protein supplement as well. So it kind of combines them a little bit. So that's why you're not going to eat this product and try to go compete for Mr. Olympia. You're not going to strip down and get super cut doing it, but it's more for putting on that muscle and, keeping up for sports, because athletes aren't competing at that 7% body fat you see like bodybuilders, and you're not going to get there just by accident. But
yeah.
But
well, and that's not necessarily even a natural view of how a strong person looks, is like the Mr. Olympia, like hyper shredded thing. But I think people hear about like eating food, and I don't think it's a new renaissance, I feel like, for talking about weight gain and like exercise, and that people are talking, they're putting it more caveman like, and they're just talking like calories more, weight, calories less, as opposed to all of these fake guru advice where they're saying like you need to stop eating McDonald's, or you need to stop doing these things if you're going to gain weight, or like even in terms of dieting they'll say like keto, like stop eating carbs, when in reality it's actually more of just like a net calorie loss or net calorie gain. And I feel like that's just like super uncomfortable for people to hear about. It just doesn't intuitively make sense that you're going to reach your goals by eating ice cream. And so I guess when you guys are talking about bulking, like how do you explain this to people so they aren't just like eating whatever they want and then getting fat and then like that's the bulk, because that's like a fear that everyone's gonna have when you're like, you should just eat more. It's like, okay. It's like, oh no. So how do you guys stop people from like over bulking?
I guess from my diet experience, from what I've done in the past, I was never really a snacker. I was never eating like chips or candy. I've never been really a sweets guy. I don't really eat out much, so I think my meals I do eat are pretty high calorie, high protein, but they're pretty healthy. Like I make a lot of my own pasta and like chicken and rice and stuff. So that does sound kind of gross to everyone maybe listening, but that is kind of the base. And so I think I could cheat a little bit with the ice cream, but then I also get the additives of the protein aspect. So I didn't feel too crappy eating that because the rest of my diet was pretty good. So you kind of sometimes you have a little bit of cheat too. So I think that was like my treat that I could have, but I'd rather have something that gave me nourishment and the protein aspect as well, rather than just the ice cream at the end of the day that didn't serve any purpose really. So I think if the rest of your diet is pretty solid, you don't have to be I'm not perfect. I'm a college kid who's eating crap sometimes and drinking too much probably. But no, just like trying your hardest to keep a good diet from, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then you kind of cheat yourself to get your extra calories in a way you actually like, because you've tried hard to maintain a healthy diet before.
Yeah, I'm also not great at being perfectly perfect with my diet. I definitely do cheat a little bit more than I should. I think it's really important though is just, I guess, being consistent. Like I guess a lot of people I know for some reason skip breakfast. I can't imagine that. I couldn't function without breakfast.
This is me as well.
I don't eat for the first like 5 hours of my day.
I accidentally intermittent really fast.
Actually though.
I advocate for breakfast. I guess it's not a popular opinion anymore though. And then let's see what else. Another thing that I kind of go off of is it's like I think it's like 1.5 to 2.5 grams of protein per pound of body weight, and then it's like 1.5 to 1 grams of carbs, I think, and then like half a gram for fat. That's something I kind of go off of too when I'm putting like meal plans together.
Yeah, and that's the metric that I've been using. It's a little bit less on a cut and then a little bit more on a bulk is generally, but it's like around 1 gram per pound. I try to go 1 gram per pound too. Is kind of crazy for protein, but
it's wild.
Yeah, but hey, I mean,
then.
I was like, hey man, you're gonna be huge though. But yeah, I think it's interesting. I was just talking to somebody. I literally just the episode before this one, we were talking. She's a culinary food science major, and she talks a lot about nutrition. And her perspective on it was different because she was more. I guess, like, liberating about the food that you eat. And she was more like, you should just be able to eat what you want and then know what your body should eat. And I think that that's really important to keep in mind too. But there's also the other side of the coin. My perspective is that you should be pushing yourself pretty much constantly, and that you should be uncomfortable in a lot of things that you do. One of the ways we fail at this the most is by eating whatever we want and just like being kind of, I guess, gluttonous or whatever, just eating all the food you want. And you should probably subdue that. You should probably eat less than what your body wants to do. But some people don't necessarily agree with this. Is there a defense you guys can make about, like, sometimes you should be controlling your eating, sometimes you should be eating less than you want to or more than you want to? Like, how do you guys talk about this?
And we're kind of gym bro science a little bit, but kind of wherever your goals sit, if you want to be looking a certain way, you have to eat a certain way. It just kind of comes down to that. But getting that way to a place where you're comfortable with how your body is and just like maintaining that. So if you feel comfortable at a certain weight, just keep eating how you're eating, I guess. But if you have different goals that have a different diet attached to it, I would say just eat as you kind of similar to what she said, I guess, what you're comfortable with. But I don't know. Do you have a better?
Kind of in the same boat. One thing I would add to that is, like, have a cheat day. I don't see anything wrong with that. I personally, I don't know, staying consistent on a diet is like the hardest part about fitness for me. So having a cheat day in there where I can eat whatever I feel like is always nice.
Yeah.
So that you can be kind of liberal sometimes.
And that's how, and I agree. It's always somewhere in the middle. I feel like on two extremes, you're the people who are like, if you don't eat rice and beans every single day, you're gonna explode and die. You know what I mean? And I get that sentiment. But on the other end, there are people who go way too extreme on the other end, and they're like, you should eat as much as you want, whenever you want, all the time. And
it just kind of becomes miserable if you try to do that. Like, for a while, I was really consistent with just the chicken breast, the rice, and like broccoli just about every day. But it just it starts to taste like nothing, no matter what you put on it. So it's nice to have variety.
Yeah, and happiness is another big factor too. You know what I mean? Like, what exactly are you sacrificing? I guess the argument normally comes down to, like, in the long term, you'll be happier if you kind of punish yourself food-wise just a little bit, or like, just a little bit throughout your life, you'll be happier in the end. But I guess some people are on the opposite end of, like, never doing that, and then they're probably pretty happy too. So, so I guess
to each their own.
Yeah, I guess there's give and take, but how do you guys feel about just, like, dieting in general? Like, how do you guys feel about the conversation that people are having about nutrition? Like, you guys are introducing this product that encourages you to eat more, to, add more protein to your diet. How do you guys feel about just the word dieting, or, like, diet culture in general?
Yeah, I would say, to kind of extension of what we were just talking about, I think dieting is even harder than working out. For me, as like a guy who likes to lift a lot, the diet is way harder to do than going to the gym every day. Going to the gym every single day is easy, but dieting is where the hard work is. Like, you kind of got to be more committed to that than anything else, which is weird to say. But I know a bunch of people that probably doesn't make sense to some people. But I love going to the gym. It's kind of a passion of mine. But the diet's the hard part, I think. Kind of giving up some things, if not eating McDonald's every single day, even though it's easy in there and there's an app that gives you a 2-for-1 double sandwich. Yeah,
dude, McDonald's is so cursed, man. They're handing out food.
Well, I felt gross there because I was trying to get my calorie count there. I think we went together, and I looked down. I was like, I ordered 4 double cheeseburgers, and I ate them all. But it was like, this is not sustainable. I'm not going to order 4 double cheeses from McDonald's every day. This is awful.
With the McDonald's app, 4 double cheeseburgers comes out to like $2.
Yeah.
So
like, should I got a 5?
Yeah. I say, yeah, you might as well buy 4, get 4 free.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
What I mean? Like, it's the most ridiculous app on the planet.
Yeah, that's crazy.
If I was homeless, I would be eating at McDonald's every single day.
Oh, yeah, I'd be gigantic. I'd be so heavy.
yeah, actually. So maybe that's the bulk strategy.
Yeah, I'd be homeless.
Yeah.
McDonald's.
OP bulking strategy.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and I find that interesting, too, with, like, going to the gym. I feel like you only battle the gym for the hour and a half that you're there. You know what I mean? And maybe the 30 minutes before, and you got to psych yourself up. You know what I mean? But you're battling food every other minute of the day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, whether it be temptations that you need to eat or want to eat, or like the food that you are eating and how you feel because of it. Like, you have to fight that all the day. And I think people totally underestimate that too.
Yeah.
So I guess, like, what would you guys prescribe for people who are trying to gain weight or lose weight? Like, generally, you have somebody who comes in and he's like, I'm looking to gain weight. What do you guys tell them?
I would say one thing I started out doing is there's these calculators online you can find to try to figure out, like, what your calorie what your baseline is for how many you should be to keeping your body weight. And you just kind of go from there, and then you find foods that you at least semi-like, or you like ideally, and you can make those to kind of create those needs. Because if you don't enjoy what you're doing, if you absolutely hate it, you're not going to stick with it. So I would say just find a diet that works for you, that meets like the calorie needs. The calorie out, calories in, calories out is a big thing, but just trying to figure out how to meet those and be comfortable still, or at least not hate yourself every day eating.
Yeah, the one thing that I do to stay consistent is to meal prep. One thing I hate doing when I'm hungry is cooking. I just want to go straight for like Chipotle's down the street from me.
Yeah.
So I'd rather just go there and have somebody make me food real quick rather than spend half an hour cooking a chicken breast. So prepping your meal before you eat it way in advance, that's really helpful for being consistent when trying to gain muscle.
Yeah, that's huge, because if you don't, it's so much easier to stop at McDonald's instead of cooking, unless you cook a bunch at the beginning of the week or something instead of a bunch of sides. So I'd say that's really important too. Just cook a lot of food at once and just make your individual packaged stuff so you don't eat something crummy just because it's fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a big thing too. When you guys are talking about like the gym, how do you guys handle that? Like, how do you guys motivate yourself to go to the gym, even if you're like tired, hungry, or just don't want to go?
Mm-hmm. I don't know, it's always been it's my favorite thing. Now I think I've been doing it for so many years, my body feels weird if I don't. But I don't motivate myself. Like at the beginning, it was just I had goals of wanting to do a certain thing or look a certain way, and it was just I was thinking about that every single day. Like, man, I want to play college basketball, or man, I don't want to be so skinny anymore. I look like a unloved child. Like I wanted to have those goals, so I was following those. But now I think for me, it's almost even better for my mental state than my physical state. Like it's like almost therapy going to the gym. It just feels good. I feel like I'm a bad person now if I don't go. Like, man, I'm so lazy, just like sitting there like playing PlayStation. So
yeah, I get that.
Yeah, I'm in a really similar boat. It's gotten to the point where if I don't go, I feel almost wrong the rest of the day. I do it first thing in the morning, so energy really isn't an issue for me. And then another thing I do to make sure I'm still consistent is I just like surround myself with like fitness material. So like I listen to fitness podcasts, work out every day. Just try to constantly kind of keep it on my mind so that I never really lose interest in it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that makes sense too. I know that working out from the perspective of someone who doesn't really work out, these sound like bad things. Like it sounds sounds like you guys have set yourself up to like be addicted to like pain.
That's probably a good way to put
it. Going to the gym. But of course, for anybody who understands what you're talking about, they're like, hell yeah. They're like, yeah, of course. That's like the whole point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I guess like, how do you guys look at the future of working out? Like, how many times do you guys work out a week?
I try to get 5.
Yeah, it's about 5 right now.
Okay. How do you guys look at like the future? Like in 30 years, are you guys still waking up and cranking some weight? Like,
I assume I'll probably let myself go at some point. I'll get sick of it.
What a crazy statement.
Well, I figure someday, 30 years from now, I have like wife and kids, I'm not going to want to be like at the gym instead of at like some kid's basketball game.
Right. So this is true. You're pre-ordering that time though.
I'm sure I'll like, stay in somewhat shape or do something, but it won't be to this extent, I don't think. I'll probably have real world responsibilities to handle.
For me, I really don't see a reason to stop ever. I don't know. One thing that just kind of weirds me out is like I've known some people who, they're like use nicotine or whatever, and they're like, I'm not going to live forever. I'm going to enjoy my life while I'm here, and like so they don't plan on living as long as they can.
Yeah.
So that just doesn't make any sense to me. I just feel like I want to live as long as I can and be as healthy as I can. So I genuinely don't really see a reason to ever stop until like I physically just can't do it. Maybe I'll just be wheelchair bound or like bed bound and I can't do it anymore. That's when I feel like I'll stop.
Yeah, and that's super interesting too, because a lot of people see this as healthy, but they're not really willing to make that long-term sacrifice of like, okay, I'm just going to have to commit like a 10th of my life to working out. Like that's just how it's going to have to be. But I think they're failing to realize the lasting good feeling that you guys probably have from working out. Like the way you guys feel when you just like get up in the morning. You know what I mean? Like it's impossible for me to get into your brains and figure out like how you feel.
Yeah.
But I imagine you feel pretty dang good compared to maybe somebody who doesn't do any of this stuff either. And I can't prove that, and that sucks. Yeah. But I guess that's like the cope that you have to have like when you're working out this much. I also think that you reach a certain point if you've developed this habit at a certain age. Like, I don't think you guys are ever going to struggle with being unhealthy. Like, I think you guys have committed way too much to this to like ever, let yourself go. You know what I mean? Like, what that means.
That
like,
might mean a little something differently.
Yeah. Like, what that means to you is probably like so much less than.
Probably means like lift 2 days a week.
Yeah. Instead, I'll only run like 3 half marathons a year instead of the usual 5 or whatever. So
there is a bit of a sunk cost fallacy, I feel too.
Yes.
I've come this far. There's no reason to let it go now.
Exactly, and I think that's a good thing, and I feel like that's like when you reach the successful point where you guys could probably cut down to 3. You guys are looking pretty good. You could probably cut down to 3 times a week if you wanted to. But I imagine that that's just not where you want to be. You know what I mean? And nobody can blame you for that. And I think that's really cool. I think it's a cool position to be in.
And now it's kind of weird. It's like scheduled in my brain where if I don't work out on a certain day, I'm like, what am I supposed to do with these 2 hours? Like, Like I sit there, I'm like, what am I supposed to do with myself? And just watch TV? I feel like crap. But it's weird because your body doesn't know what to do without it sometimes at some point. It's just odd. It's like in your psyche.
Which is it's super OP. What do you guys do, like, or what do you guys think people who really disagree with this sentiment are saying? Like, when you guys talk to people about working out, do you guys ever talk to somebody who's like, absolutely not, like, I just wouldn't do it? What are they saying? Like, why don't people work out?
I think people don't want to get into it. I know it's like I don't want to spend the time. I don't think I need it. Kind of, especially with people our age. I think people sometimes think they're a little bit invincible. Our metabolisms haven't slowed down too much yet, and they haven't really seen the, like, I don't know, the result of not working out at all or not being healthy. But I think what kind of made me addicted, to your point, once you start doing it and start feeling good, you kind of get addicted to that feeling good feel. And you look a little better. You maybe, I got a vein there I never seen before. And that's kind of addicting. Like, I want to keep this up. I want to keep making myself better. So that feeling of getting better and seeing your progress, I think, really excites you. But if you don't have that first seeing, if you don't get on it long enough to see that, it's hard to get hooked.
Mm-hmm. And then, I guess to the question, some people I feel like are just kind of overwhelmed or scared to get into the gym. Like they might be really skinny, and then they see everybody who looks like Grant and me, and it's like, these guys are staring at me the whole time. They're lifting double what I can. Like, there's no way I could ever get to this point. So they just don't try because they don't think they could ever get to a point that's admirable, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, what do you guys say to people who have that kind of fear?
Well, I think I can say, you can tell me if you disagree, but like 99% of the people in the gym, they don't care what you're doing. Like, it's not like guys like, ooh, what a weak guy. Like, when I see someone like that, I'm like, man, that guy's getting into it.
Yeah.
Like, good for him. Like, I don't look down on people who are just getting in the gym because everyone's been there. Every single person who's been in the gym remembers when they started, so they just like people being there. So don't feel scared that people are looking at you like judging you.
Yeah, I'd say everybody who's in the gym has something better to do than to stare at you and judge you. And I think that just, it goes outside of the gym. That's just something in general. Everybody, their lives are way more important than whatever the heck you're doing. Mm-hmm. So I feel like don't get so caught up in what other people are thinking. Just worry about doing what you're doing there at the gym.
And half the guys, if you're a gym dude's been going every day, you're spending the time looking at yourself in the mirror probably, which is terrible. It's dumb, but there's so many guys doing that, and you're like, all right, chill out, guy. He's looking at himself more than you for sure.
Yeah, true. I guess that's why they're there, right? Yeah. So.
They're wearing some dumb tank going like...
Yeah, wearing pajama pants.
I don't know when the pajama pants started. I've never been able to do that.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the whole thing. There's that one weightlifter. I had a guy on here who was telling me about this. I don't know. My friends call him Zizatrons. It's this guy, famous weightlifter. I think he passed away or something, but a bunch of high schoolers wear tanks and pajama pants in honor of him because that's what he would wear, like when you go to the gym or something. So, but no, that's really funny. I do think also that people who are working out, like especially people who are like, who've been obviously doing it for a really long time, like you guys are just there to do a job and like get it done. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't social hour for you guys. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I imagine that you guys aren't motivated to look at other people because you got to focus on like reaching failure. You know what I mean? Like, you probably look embarrassing. You know what I mean? And that's just like how the gym is, right? So,
yeah, I'm thinking if I go talk to that guy, I'm gonna lose my pump.
Yeah, exactly.
Something I don't get. Like, I go to the gym alone these days. Like, having a gym partner, I find it kind of like, it's great to have. I'd say I get a better pump when I'm with somebody. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I find it kind of annoying because they want to talk in between sets. I'm like, I'm here to get things done. I don't have time to talk about whatever.
Right. Yeah, I think a lot of people when they're talking about not going to the gym because they're scared, it's like, let's imagine that every single person in there was judging you. is that worse than like not feeling the way that you should feel, or is that worse than not like being able to reach your goals, or is that worse than not like challenging yourself? You know what I mean? That's where I say, like, even if everyone was judging you, which they're not, like, I don't know if it's worth it to just not go to the gym.
Yeah.
I do feel though that like particularly women have a very different experience going to the gym. In regards to like, not only in regards to some of the things that they feel like safety, but also I think with judgment from other people as well. Like, I do know, like, my girlfriend tells me this all the time, where she'll say that, you know, she's embarrassed to do something because other people will see her. And then I was like, nobody watches you. And she's like, I watch other people. And I'm like, oh. I'm like, oh, you're the problem. But I think that's something, I think it's a different experience. You know what I mean? And so
I can see that.
there's a chance that we might be naive in like the amount of time that we've been to the gym.
Me and Zane just could be losers just by ourselves too. That's also possible.
Yeah, so that's
Just
possible. So that is a caveat that might be worth noting, but I doubt it. I sincerely doubt it. I just don't think a lot of people are in there to like watch other people, especially the people that you're scared of. You know what I mean? Like the biggest guys in the gym are not watching you. You know what I mean? So, and that's the whole point. So, I mean, that feels really good too. But when you guys are like trying to motivate somebody to do these things, like what are some of the reasons that they fail? Like what are some of the like gym techniques that you see other people doing, or like bulking strategies, like common mistakes that people are making when they're trying to get into the gym?
I think there's a lot of like dumb get big supplements out there that I don't think are worth your money. I think just the basic stuff like creatine, and I like using pre-workout. Some people don't use it, but just like those things. But if you're putting a lot of other stuff in your body, I don't think it's worth your money. Other than because it's gonna be mostly diet, and then the basic creatine's well tested, so it's gonna be worth your time. But other than that, I think people just use a bunch of stuff and then just I don't know. What else do you see, Zane? Or as far as like workout wise, things you employ.
Definitely want to be consistent. And then one thing, I guess, for people trying to get into the gym, bringing somebody with you, like, is always great. Like I said, I feel like I get my best pumps from working with somebody else. They'll also help you be consistent. And then I feel like when you're with somebody else, you're more willing to kind of push yourself and your limits. Like when I'm by myself, I can be lazy. No one, like we said, no one's watching. So you can be lazy and, you know, half-ass this set. That's all right. But if somebody's with you, they're going to be pushing you. You might even want to try to impress them. Yeah. So you're going to try a lot harder, I feel like.
I think especially getting started, having a lifting partner is very like encouraging and motivating. Because when you want to take a day off and Zane slings up the 85s, like, well, I'm not going to go 60s. Like, I'm going to try to do 85s too. He might judge me. But,
that's the real judgment.
This is your lifting partner. He's going to judge you more than everyone else in the gym for sure. But have someone there to kind of be your accountability partner a little bit. And you know, there's a lot of research stuff out there too. You can look up videos of guys who put together workout plans and stuff. So just kind of listen to what they do or other people you kind of admire do. So just kind of ask questions. No one really cares if you ask questions.
Yeah, and I think those are really big too. The workout partner is super like awesome. Like that helps so much, I think, because one of the things that I've been really trying to focus on is like achieving failure and like getting to that point. You know what I mean? Because I've been working out for like 4 years, and for the first years 2 through 3, I was like, I'm kind of just throwing around the same weight over and over again. Like I'm just going to the gym and like completing the task and then going home. You know what I mean? And I wasn't really like pushing. And then this last year, I started tracking my calories, like really focusing on the bulk because I weighed like 140 or something disgusting. You know, I'm just like really tiny person. And I was really focusing on the bulk, like gaining weight, pushing more weight. And failure was so helpful for like doing that and achieving that. And having a buddy makes failing so much easier and less embarrassing than I feel like getting 100%. Choked under the bench like because it's like on you. You know what I mean? And so I really do resonate with the workout buddy point. I think that's super important. And also like the judgment really helps, like just to get somebody to like laugh at you because you can't push as much weight is like actually really important. And it's like it's part of the journey.
In a friendly way too, because you know like they don't care, like they're your buddies, so they're just gonna push you to be better. So
exactly. And they want you to be that way, you know. So it's just effective. What about like more dieting related things? What are people like failing at? Like what do you notice that you're constantly having to tell people stop doing that? You know what I mean?
Let's see. I don't know. People consume a lot of junk. Like I said, I don't snack. I know a lot of my friends snack, and that's an issue. I know I have a buddy who will sit down and eat a whole family-sized bag of chips in just like a sitting just because they can't watch on TV. So I think try to avoid some of those things, some of those habits as much as possible would be helpful. Or I've never been a sweets guy either, but I imagine that doesn't do well for your weight as far as like a leanness standpoint. But just kind of be intentional about what you eat.
Yeah, snacks. Yeah, a lot of people just like have them around and like have them on hand and stuff. I'd say like for me, I'd say my greatest vice is like sweets. Once I eat candy, I can't stop till the bag's gone. So I just try to keep everything like that like away from me. So I don't have anything in my home right now. The closest like sweets to me would be at like the grocery store or like the gas station or something. So I'd have to go out of my way to satisfy this craving, and at that point it's not worth it, you know.
Yeah, and that helps a lot. It takes a little bit of forethought to know like what's gonna tempt you.
Yeah, gotta figure it out
into eating this stuff too. I think. How do you guys feel about the conversation about calories in and out? I know that there's a little bit of controversy, or people are just like, they're kind of weirded out when people talk about that. Like the idea is that you could eat 1,000 calories of donuts and then you would still lose weight versus eating like 3,000 calories of chicken and rice and you'll still gain weight. And people hear that and they just say that science just doesn't back this up. Do you guys have any insight on this now that you guys have been making products like this? Or
I think that I do believe in the calorie in, calorie out, and I think there's certain weight gain and weight loss that's going to be more healthy for you. Like let's say you're in a calorie surplus, you're eating more calories, you're going to look different in the mirror if you're eating 2,500 calories with donuts or 25 calories with more cleaner proteins. So I think it is going to be a different look, but you are going to gain and lose weight if you're in a calorie surplus or a deficit. But it's just a matter of what it looks like and how healthy your body's going to be, the nutrition factors you're getting in. Do you have a take on that, Zane?
Mine's pretty similar. I don't know. I guess one thing I've noticed is like I've gotten to a point where eating the dirty calories, I guess, just doesn't feel right anymore. It's like I can't do this anymore. I just physically can't. Like almost every time I eat pizza anymore, I feel sick afterwards.
Pizza's the one.
And it's just at some point it feels like I just have to let all those tasty good foods go and just only eat the healthy stuff, you know, because it just doesn't suck to afterwards, if that makes any sense.
I've had the similar thing with pizza. It's funny you say that. Pizza's one I just always feel gross. Well, I also have self-control issues. I eat the whole pizza. I can't not do that. However much is there, I'm just going to eat it.
Whatever's put on your plate, you're just going to eat
it's
the
full
whole
plus
thing.
one.
And I think those are really good. I think just when people are talking about gaining and losing weight, it doesn't make sense. And I think that controlling what you eat is really important, and controlling what's available to you is really important. I think that takes a little bit more effort than maybe other things, but I had a question lined up, but I couldn't remember what it was. It was something along the lines of like, what are people coming to you guys and asking about? Like, what kind of advice do you find that you're giving a lot for people, for maybe like positive or negative? Like, if you guys could grandstand one thing in terms of nutrition, what would it be?
Nutrition, I think as a general rule for nutrition and working out, when people ask me like, oh, how do you get bigger? How do I look like you? Or yada, yada, yada. I think that it just boils down to being consistent. Like, you're not going to do that by just changing up what you do in the workout. If you're doing a workout once a week, it's not going to change if you're putting something else in your body, but you're only doing it once a month. Like, you're just doing it every single day and following a program is the biggest advice I can give, because it all comes down to consistency, kind of nothing else, in my opinion.
In the same boat. I feel like I should offer a different thought, though.
Yeah, quit piggybacking.
So maybe something about nutrition. What would there be?
Yeah, no pressure to come up with something that no one's ever thought. No one's ever thought of.
I feel like still related to consistency, but I guess not making it easy for yourself, like stacking the cards in your favor. Like going back to my meal prepping thing. Like we said, diet's probably the hardest part of gaining weight and all that. So just doing that all in advance when you are motivated to do it is probably the best I can give, is just do things when you feel like it, so that when you have to do it later when you don't feel like it, it makes it a lot easier. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
No, yeah, super. And that's really interesting too, because it kind of goes to one of the struggles I feel like people have with calories in and out, like simplifying it that much. There is a little bit more than just calories in and out. Like the amount of energy you get is like important if like for long term versus short term, you know, and that helps with like sleep, and that might be one of the motivating factors for why you do or don't go to the gym. Or like if you're eating a ton of oils, you're gonna get like a bunch of acne or something, or like some of these things that affect you in ways, so it's gonna block up your digestive system because you're eating so much ice cream or whatever. Like things like this. There are other factors that are important with, you know, that are more important than calories in and out, but I feel like consistency and then like putting the cards in your favor is super important for people, because it takes a lot of long-term planning, which I think is probably the biggest thing that people are missing when it comes to changing their life. And that's kind of what I was getting at with like how you guys feel about diets. I think just like the idea of a diet is just often misinterpreted by people, and they think that it's like a 3-month-long thing. And I think that you guys have done a really good job of talking about it in the long term, because I feel like a lot of people are like, I'm going to do this for 3 months, and then what? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you guys you undo everything. You know what I mean? Like, you're obviously going to be building a habit, and I think one of the pieces of advice that I like to give, and I wonder how you guys feel about this, is if you're going to be implementing a change, you should be implementing a change for the rest of your life. Like, this should be something that you're doing until you're 60. Otherwise, don't even bother. Like, if this is something you're going to do for like a year, like I'm going to change my whole body in a year, like what does after look like? I feel like that's not setting your cards up in your favor at all when you're just saying like, oh, I'll just do this for 3 months and then I'll be done. Like, it should be something like, if you can't sustain going to the gym 5 days a week, do 3.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Do 2. Do what you can do for the rest of your life, and then you'll find that you can actually do more than you think you can.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I guess, how do you guys feel about that?
I like that too, because I think it kind of comes back down to like that. Set yourself up to do something that, you know, set yourself up to stack the cards in the favor that you can do something consistently. So just do what you can do. Like you said, I like that a lot. Just what you will stick with. Do something you're actually going to do for a long time rather than give up right away.
Yeah, because people just beat themselves up, and it's like, no sugar for the rest of my life. And it's like, what are you talking about? It's like, good
Be
luck.
unhappy?
Yeah. It's like, I'm just never going to smile again. Like, I don't know what you're talking about when you're trying to make these like crazy diets. And that's why I say like diet culture. But it's interesting what you guys are doing, because you guys are just so unintuitive for like what people's instincts are when it comes to dieting. You know what I mean? But like, gaining weight is a diet, and it's like an important one for a lot of people too. And I feel like I get scoffed at a lot when I bring this up as a problem. And they're like, gosh, I wish I had your problem. It's like, I wish I didn't. I'm having 8 plates at the dining hall because I have to eat this dry pork chop. And,
they don't know what it's like sitting there sweating because you're eating so much food. You're getting the meat sweats.
Meat sweats are awesome.
Coming through your shirt. You're like, man, I got to do another bowl still.
Yeah, and I don't know. How do you guys deal with like the people who just don't get it? Like, how do you guys deal with this hate? Not hate, but like misunderstanding. Sometimes it's hate, but
I don't know. I kind of shake it off. It doesn't bother me too much. Like, oh, it's just the lifestyle I chose. If you don't like it, you don't like it. But it's what I like to do. So
I don't know. I feel like I just ignore it. And I don't know. It doesn't really affect me. I don't know.
Yeah, no problem. Do you guys feel like there are downsides to living the lifestyle that you guys have?
I will say that you miss out on certain things. Another thing I give to people, advice I'd give is you have to make rules for yourself of what you're allowed to do and what you can't do. Like Zane said, I don't keep certain things around my house that I'm going to eat a lot. If I'm going to snack every single night, I like potato chips. I'm not going to have potato chips around 24/7. Another thing I set, and Zane knows this rule I made for myself, I'm not going to go out drinking unless I worked out first. So I got to work out before I do that. So my buddies always invite me out to FAC to have drinks in the afternoon, but I'm like, well, I work out in the afternoon, so I'm not going to go out until night if I'm going to go out. So I think setting yourself some restrictions for lifestyle is good, and just staying consistent again.
I'd say the biggest challenge that I've noticed gaining weight is just the sheer amount of food that you have to consume. Like, I'm always slightly hungry, I'd say. So again, just planning out the meals, making sure you don't just like satisfy your cravings, but you really, I guess, go over that satisfaction period to where you're almost like full, like too full, so that you aren't eating every other hour. You know.
Yeah, people don't know about that feeling very much, I feel, when it comes to like pushing past fullness. Like normally they're done because they're happy. You know, it's like keep going. You know, so it's weird for people to think about. But we're running up on about an hour for this episode. But I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to kind of close this out. I like to give guests opportunity to conclude the episode. If you guys want to talk about anything that we talked about, summarize the things. I'd encourage you to plug your guys' stuff, any social medias or stuff that you're working on, or just your product in general. But this is really your guys' platform to wrap us up.
Yeah, perfect. Well, our product is called Frozen Gains. I don't know if we ever actually said that, but Frozen Gains is our weight gainer ice cream with high protein. But our website, frozengains.com, is there if you want to check it out, and our Instagram is Frozen Gains Official. We should be in the next few months releasing a pre-order for everyone who wants to buy the first product, and hopefully getting it out in stores soon.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything to add. You kind of covered it all.
Yeah, well, it was awesome having both you guys on. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, that was so cool.